Hey. Well, hey. Welcome to Taking It One Day at a Time podcast. I am your host, Tyrah Starke, and our slogan, our quote here is we are allowing God to order our steps daily, no matter how long it takes. Welcome again to a brand new episode. I pray that you all are having a wonderful week. And wherever you are listening to this podcast, whether you are looking at it on YouTube, if you are, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. I typically upload the YouTube video before I do the actual audio recording on the podcast recording on Spotify and Apple. So if you are visual and you really just want to be one of the first ones to hear, make sure that you are subscribed on our YouTube channel. Make sure you are following us on Instagram at Taking It One Day Podcast. And if you are a fan of the podcast, please make sure you leave a review. I will be very grateful for your review. And so let's just dive right on into it. I'm super excited, you guys, because I'm just feeling very inspired lately. So a little backstory. So today we'll kind of be talking about apologists, and evangelism and what that is to me, or not what that is to me, but more so the inspiration I am feeling from learning more about apologists and more about just evangelism and what evangelism looks like firsthand. Jesus has me, God has me reading the Gospels right now. I'm still in Matthew and really just taking the time to deep dive and not just like, oh, I'm just reading one chapter a day to make it a check off on my list, but really diving deep into Jesus's character and how he spoke in parables, and how he related to the people and truly evangelized to them and met them where they were. I'm really learning that. So this interest actually started I would even say about mid 2024. It was just like very implanted into me, like start wanting to see more on evangelism and interest in apologists, and which is, I hope I'm saying the word right. Y'all, I'm a little southern. So don't and I'm a lot urban. So I'm a little southern and a lot urban. So if I mispronounce anything, y'all please just let me know in the comments, but give me some grace, please. But really it's just defending your faith, of being a disciple of Christ, and really just evangelizing the people. Evangelizing meaning telling people about Jesus's ministry, and the gospel, which is truth, God's truth, the only truth there is, that's right. Amen. And so I used to really just I used to like look at people who are really good at evangelism. There's a minister in my church. Shout out to Minister Mike Mobley. I see how he can just randomly go up to people and just minister to them. And I'm talking about people from all aspects of life. And he himself has a testimony that is crazy. Like God set him free from a lot of crazy things. And he goes right back into those same neighborhoods. And the way it just easily comes out, I've always been inspired by that. And not just him, but several other people that I know that is really good. Pastor Patterson, Lorenzo Patterson is also another person who I look up to. And people, and my sister, she has her own charity foundation. So Rudy's Blankets, shout out my sister Tamara. So every year, our family, the foundation, we go and we give essentials to the unhoused community. And so a lot of our preacher friends and ministers and things like that, I'll see them, and they will be so unafraid and unashamed to spread the gospel. But not only that, but really meeting people where they are and listening to them, and like, their struggles, and maybe how they came to know, how they became unhoused, and really sharing that love for God's people and not being ashamed to like hug them and hold their hands, without gloves, and I've always just been fascinated by that. And I've always been like, Lord, I'm just so unqualified to be on that level of evangelism. because I've also like I grew up in a church, like, we would evangelize on weekends and people like close the door in our face. I don't know. Maybe they thought, I don't know. Maybe they thought we were a different religion. I don't know. But I would get nervous by that. And see, I'm like, I could never be a salesman because I feel like cannot take no for an answer. And if somebody tells me no, I'm going to feel some type of way. Like secondhand embarrassment. But always still having like this love and admiration for people who are just so bold into that. And then when you add apologists on there, when they're defending the faith, they can go head to head with somebody who may be from another religion. It's so admirable. It is. So I say all that to say, like in mid 2024, I feel like God stirred up like more of a hunger for me to witness, And yes, like I'm an ordained minister. I've told you guys that before, but I still have my insecurities of like, okay, God, can I really do this? Are people going to listen? Even when I get on here on this podcast, I'm like, can I do this, Lord? And I know that's just the enemy trying to, twist and get me discouraged. And so I recognize that. And so that's why I'm like, okay, I rebuke those thoughts. Let me retrain, let me refocus my mind. But I was just like, man. And so I was watching Preston Perry's videos on YouTube randomly, his street ministry, and him just randomly talking to folks from like maybe they were atheists or maybe they worship the ancestors or monks, Hebrew Israelites, and then just like the way he does it, and many there's also and many people out there, even in our local church, that can do that. I was like, man, I'm just watching it so intimidated. Like, God, like first and foremost, I'm just like, we need to know our word. We need to know our word. And like, who can do this? Like, you got to be graced for it, right? In my mind, you got to be qualified. And that's what I was thinking as God was imparting, depositing the interest in me. And I would always hear that word, what's apologist and apologetics and things like that. But so it wasn't honestly until I would even say recently, like I feel like, because okay, you kind of read something, things kind of die off. You're like, I'm not really gonna pay any attention to it or whatever. But everything, I'm just like, God, you deposited the seed into me, and so um, I decided. So I bought Darius the book, y'all. He has yet to read it because honestly, we're just really busy people. But Holy Spirit told me to read Preston Perry's How to Tell the Truth, the story of how God saved me to win hearts, not just arguments. And when I tell y'all, this is honestly been so beneficial in my life right now. So it really just stirred up a fire in me again. And not like, oh, I'm ready to take on the world and defend my faith and argue against anybody. No, but I'm really learning from this book and also from the Bible. So I'm reading the book, but I'm also reading the Bible and I'm in Matthew right now. And how just Jesus did it with such grace, man. And Jesus, he told people about himself, but he did so in such like a loving way. He was firm. He was firm, especially when he was speaking to those Pharisees. He didn't slack off now. He wasn't no punk. But a lot of his encounters with people in the Gentiles and the Samaritan woman and, all these people, he witnessed in a way that they understood. And wanted to know more. And so it is all of our jobs, right? And so in my head, I'm like, well, who is a disciple? Lord, like, I don't know, I'm qualified. I don't know, this is for me. But we all are. God has called us. If you are a born again believer, it is our duty to represent Christ. And so there's different ways for sure how to do that. I'm not saying everybody is going to be a Preston Perry. I do think you have to study to show thyself approved. Listen, one thing he talks about is like how he has studied the Quran. He has studied the Book of Mormon. He has studied, the different books that people for their religions use as research and stuff, but also just to be prepared. When people have questions, we got to be prepared as believers, and we may not have all the answers, and it's okay if we don't. But if we have a little foundation of like what these other religions believe in, then we can have a conversation, right? And so that I think that's why I always steered away from apologists and apologetics, and because I always felt like I don't know enough. If somebody, let's just say a Jehovah's Witness was to come to me right now, okay, what do I say? You know what I'm saying? Or if a Mormon or Seventh-day Adventist, and so that's why I always just was like, I'm good, because I'm like, I ain't got time to argue with nobody. Like, I will walk away from an argument in a second when it comes to religion, because I feel like I ain't got time to tell you what God, like who God is, because I just know him for myself. Like, if you can't, I don't know, if you ain't experiencing for yourself, I can't help you. I used to think like that. And so God is showing me, no, I can have a great conversation with people about the different denominations or faith or whatever, and really have a respectful conversation and truly tell people who Jesus is in my life, who the Holy Trinity, God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, how they are all one, but act in three different roles, and so all those things, right? And so I'm like, but it just seems so complex. Like, I'm watching it, and so I'm watching more street evangelism, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, how do people have the patience to hear people attack your religion, people who are atheists, and just straight out say, I don't believe in your God, I don't believe in your Jesus. How am I supposed to react, right? And so I'm just learning, y'all. This is not a book review episode, but I am encouraging you, even if you don't know anything about apologetics or anything of that nature, please read the book, because it's so important. He is showing it's a beautiful book about really, y'all, just listening to people. Listening is a huge part of apologetics, and not just hearing to respond, but truly hearing because people are hurting. It was one of the episodes I was watching where Preston was speaking to someone who worshipped the ancestors, and but when she gave her background, the trauma that she had as a child in the church judging her and things like that. Man, these are real stories. And so I think it's really important to just listen to people, because everyone has a story. Reason why a person may have switched over to the faith, maybe they was a Christian at first and now they are a Buddhist or whatever. There's a story behind there. So, like, how can we use the love of the Lord to speak truth, but also to listen to what the person says and plant seeds? Even if you do talk to someone, a seed is planted. They may not believe right away and give their life to Christ right away, but maybe in a few months they may rethink that conversation and want to do more research. You've planted a seed. And so I've just been inspired. I don't know why God has me on this this cur curation. No, that's not the word. I don't know why God has me curious. Let's start there. I don't know why he has me curious so much about witnessing to people. And I believe I do. All of us witness in some form or fashion, right? I never forget. I had a former coworker of mine when I was working at Macy's in Tampa. And she told me I probably would never pick up a Bible, and I've never really picked up a Bible, but the way that you live as a believer, as a Christian, has really helped me at this job. And that, I say, to this day, I think that is one of the best compliments I have ever received from anyone. It's nice to be told you smell good, your hair looks good. I love to hear from my husband, baby, you look sexy. Like, I love that. But to have someone who is not a churchgoer, doesn't really know anything about the word, and to be frank, probably don't want to know much, to have a person like that tell you that they feel closer to God just by working with you, and that they feel close, they know. She said, I know my prayers don't get to him, but if she told me a situation that she wanted me to pray about. She said, but I know God listens to you. That was the most beautiful thing anyone has ever told me. And I look back at it, I'm like, man, I don't really think I was what did I do special? you know? Just one of those things, and people knew I was a believer. I would talk about my faith and like, oh, I got to go to church today. I'm so excited. This is what we're learning in Bible study. Y'all, and I wasn't necessarily living the best. I mean, she was telling this to somebody who was still clubbing on some Saturdays. No, I think by then I had slowed down. And now that I think about it, I think by the time I met her, I was being more obedient to the Lord and what He wanted me and my purpose. So I was getting out of that lifestyle of college and stuff. So now that I think about it, I think I was. But still, I wasn't perfect by any means. I think, like I said, I wasn't clubbing all the time, but I might have hit a party one or two by the time I met her. So it wasn't perfect by a long shot, but I was just like, y'all, man, y'all, I love me some Jesus. But I wasn't like judgmental. And me and this person, probably total opposite, But I think just the love I showed them, and this is the thing. If somebody asks me now, if you give me a scenario, you ask me my opinion now, I'm gonna give you my opinion, and back then it was just an opinion. Now I take more into heart, like, okay, it's my opinion, but let me back it up with a word. So I'm a little more mature in that area, but yeah, I say all that to say that a lot of times the life we live is a big testimony too. So don't think that you're not a disciple. Don't think that you're not a servant. Don't think that you're not witnessing to anybody, because we always are. And we are not to taint our witness either. That's why living, we aren't argue, I'm just not there yet. Listen, we ain't got as much time as we have. So also making sure that we don't taint our witness as well. And what do I mean by taint our witness? Like, let's not be out here preaching one thing and living another. Yes, we're not perfect, but like, you ever met somebody that's like, it's hard to receive from you because I know what you be doing behind closed doors or whatever like that? Like, I never want anyone to say that about me. I don't want anybody to say that about you. Who are you when doors are closed? Again, we are not perfect, but there's a difference between like, okay, maybe I said something that I shouldn't have said. I'm going to go back and I'm going to apologize, versus I'm literally like drunk and y'all done caught me outside and there's pictures all over. I'm just saying that's what kind of like taint witness means a little bit. Like, like, let's just make sure that we are really striving to live holy lives. That's all. So that's why I said, like, when she said that, I wasn't, if she probably would have seen me at a party, I probably would have tainted her witness. Oh, I thought Christians in club or whatever, And so I thank God that, while He was still working on me, and my disobedience that I was working through, that she didn't see that, because she might not have complimented me the way that she did. She probably would have, all these Christians are hypocrites, So let's try our best to like really truly live holy lives, in lives that are pleasing to Christ Jesus. Like Jesus, a lot of people like to use this. When Jesus hung with sinners, He never compromised who He was, though. He wasn't drinking with them and turning up. He wasn't twerking in the club too, So we have to be mindful. And that's why I say, y'all, let's read the scriptures, because a lot of people like to use that. Oh, he was, Jesus hung with the sinner. Hang is a very strong word. Like, He was there, but like, He also witnessed. The life He lived was a witness to them. And many of the people who came to Him, except for those Pharisees, a lot of people that He encountered wanted to change too. The lady, the Samaritan, the lady at the well. Let me tell y'all about a man who told me everything I've done. the lady with the issue of blood. Let me touch his hem, and I know I'm gonna be changed. Yes, she had a healing, physical healing, but there was also a change, I believe, in within the inner self. People that, even Zacchaeus, you gotta have some, not Zacchaeus, yes, Zacchaeus who climbing up the tree to get a better view of Jesus, but the crippled man, and his friends opening a hole in the roof to let him get down. You know how great friends you gotta have to do that, but also the faith that inquires that, let me get to this man named Jesus. I know I'm going to be changed. See, it's one thing if we stay in our mess, but it's another thing when we are fully transformed and we want to even and we don't get there overnight. Some people have radical changes where they can cold turkey and then like the next day they living for Jesus. But sometimes for some people it's a gradual change, right? But there's a change taking place. But when we just want to still do what we want to do and we don't want change to occur, that's when you got to revisit some stuff, and so living a life holy and acceptable to Jesus Christ is the way to go. And we're going to stumble, but we know that Christ is there and he is our ultimate role model and how we are supposed to live. A lot of times, yes, Jesus, his message is love for sure, but it's also repentance, and so I think that's where I'm also just kind of navigating of like, okay, God, how do I show love? But I also want to be true to your gospel, true to your word. Like, you didn't sugarcoat at the same time. And I think some people think like Jesus was sugarcoating stuff. He still was preaching the truth because he is the word. He's the living word. But again, the word was brought forth. I want to be hungry for you, Lord. When you first get saved, you have like the little baby food, because you're learning, da 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 da. But at some point, we need the meat and the potatoes. We can't stay the same way that we have always been. For a long time, I wanted to stay in that same way. I really didn't want to progress. I just wanted to go to church and I wanted to, live my life the best way I could and try to be obedient as possible, even though I wasn't being obedient. But at some point, there was a shift. The more I grew into the word, the more relationship came with Christ and me really actively wanting to pursue that relationship with Christ. I'm like, man, something's got to change. It was stuff I was doing before ain't cutting it right now. That started to develop, right? And it's because of the seeds that were being planted, the people that were in my midst telling me when I was wrong, actively growing in my church, actively like listening and okay, really taking notes and really hearing the word, no filter, but allowing the word also to convict me. The more I was on why am I always, I've been telling y'all for a long time in a lot of these past episodes, let's dive into the word. Let's get into it, y'all. We have this word for a reason. We have to dive into it for ourselves. I have a syringe as my that's Gideon's syringe from when I had to give him some medicine, child. It's a bookmark right now. But we can't always rely on our pastors to kind of teach us. Yes, they're here as a shepherd and they're here to guide, but also we've been given the charge to also get into the word for ourselves so that we know and that we can back up what we say. And honestly, I think that's just an apologetics. That's an apologist. They know the word, they can defend it, but also our testimony can be a witness. Our testimony can be, you don't necessarily have to know the book that, the Bible, from cover to, from the front to the end. It's good to study for sure, but sometimes we might be in a situation where, like I was in this, the lady just said, I love the way you live your life. And I know my prayers are going to get heard if you pray them or whatever. So the way we live our lives, sometimes it's a number one witness that we can have for somebody. And the best thing we can give to them. We may not know everything, but honey, let me tell you about what Jesus did for me. This is my testimony, and so I never forget, one of my friends, God allowed to use me and to lead her into to salvation in saying the sinner's prayer. We were in Starbucks, y'all. So anything can happen. Like, you don't gotta be in this fancy place. You ain't gotta be in no mega church to receive salvation. You can do it from your car. You can do it from your shower. You can receive from your job. It does not matter. But just being open to that, And so I say all that to say, I don't know why God is planting these little seeds in me until wanting to learn more about evangelism and things like that. But I tell you, I'm just so thankful where this will lead. I'm inspired by people who do it. I'm inspired by people who really just walk and just don't care what neighborhood they go into, but they're going to spread this gospel, and they do it in a way that's just, man, you want to just know more about Jesus if you didn't know about him before. And so I'm inspired. I'm inspired today. And as I continue to read this book, continue to align it with like what's going on in Matthew right now, I'm just super excited. And so the word has excited me more than it ever has before. And I'm so thankful that God chose a little girl like me to be a part of his the mission. And so I pray that the more I learn, the more I know how to use it well. I don't want to, I don't want to be the reason somebody falls. I don't want to be the reason why somebody don't want to know who Christ is. We are held accountable for that. And even leaders and people who are ministers and things like that, people who preach the gospel, we have been given a higher kind of mantle, I guess. People talk about my husband all the time, and what he's preaching about, and it's not necessarily popular. But that is what God has given him. How dare us? How dare we get mad when somebody's trying to preach the truth to us? And it's like, I think a lot of times I find when we get mad is when we don't know for ourselves what the word is saying. And it'd be like, it's right there. A lot of times, well, that's why prosperity gospel is just so popular. It's because it's what we want to hear. But when it comes down to truth, don't touch that area. Don't do that. Or, don't tell me that. Because it's not prosperity. I'm trying to get my blessing. I don't know what you're talking about living holy. We get mad. Or, and I've witnessed that. A lot of people don't really take what I say in the advice I say, but I think because I'm young. I've always felt like that. God be giving me some nuggets. And I'm like, if you're not going to receive what I'm saying because it's me who's saying it, okay, then take it up with the Lord, So I'm excited. I'm inspired. I thank God for this. And I'm not finished completely with the book. I think I have 20, maybe 30 more pages. But I'm excited. I'm reading again. And that's something I used to do all the time. Pre-Darius and pre-Gideon, I was an avid reader. And so I'm excited to kind of get back into that. But reading more, studying the word, and books that go along with it that help me grow as a believer is more so what I'm interested in right now. So if you have any book recommendations, please let me know. That's all we have for today. God bless you all. Remember to take it one day at a time, no matter how long it takes. Once again, I'm your host, Tyrah Starke. God bless you all. And make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe.